In this video, we are going to look at troubleshooting in. So when you're working in WordPress, working on your website in WordPress, you will come across WordPress errors. You will come across some common errors. The WordPress error that you come across has most likely been reported and has been resolved by someone before you already. It's very unlikely that you're the first person to ever experience that error or have seen that, or the only person to ever come across that. So most likely someone else has seen it, and it might already have solutions for it. You just have to go find out why it's happening and what the solution is. Okay, so there's help and answers out there, not to worry. So before you try to fix any WordPress error, back up first. Make sure that you have a complete WordPress backup. So the first WordPress error that we'll look at is the internal server error. So it's also sometimes known as the 500 internal server error. So this error usually appears when there's something wrong, but the server is unable to identify where the problem is. So since the error message doesn't actually show you or indicate where you should look for the error, you're going to have to figure this out. It's very often caused by a plugin or theme functions, perhaps by a corrupted htaccess file or PHP memory limit. So what you need to do is to check for the corrupt htaccess file. You can check for the corrupt htaccess file by renaming your main htaccess to htaccess_old, something like that, to rename it. So once you've renamed this htaccess file, you can visit your site to see if this has solved the problem. Then you need to go to Settings, Permalinks in your WordPress, and click and save the button without making any changes. So this would generate a new htaccess file with proper rewrite rules to ensure that your post pages don't return the 404 error. You can increase the PHP memory limit. Sometimes the internal server error can happen if you're exhausting your PHP memory limit. So if you're seeing the internal server error only when you try to log into your WordPress admin or uploading an image on your WordPress admin, then you should increase the memory limit by following these following steps. You can create a blank text file called php.ini and paste this code in there, memory equals 64 megabytes, save the file and upload it into your WordPress admin folder using FTP, your client, or your cPanel. And if it's caused by plugins, if you suspect that it's caused by plugins, then you can deactivate all plugins. If none of the previous two solutions work, then this error is most likely being caused by a specific plugin. It's also possible that a combination of the plugins are not playing nice with each other. It might not be one plugin is poorly coded or corrupt or anything. It could just be two of the plugins working together is kind of resulting in a disaster. So there's no real easy way to find this out. You're going to have to deactivate all WordPress plugins at once. You can try re-uploading core files. If the plugin option didn't fix the internal server error, then it's worth re-uploading the WP admin and the WP includes folder from a fresh WordPress install. This will not remove any of your information, but it may solve the problem in case any file was corrupted. Okay. Now you have to be careful though if you're re-uploading the WP includes folder. If there was something in it that's that wasn't there in the original files, then you might lose that information, right? Okay, so the next error message that you might see, or another error message that you might see, is this site is experiencing technical difficulties. WordPress introduced a fatal error protection feature in WordPress 5.2. So this feature displays a simple error message stating this site is experiencing technical difficulties. So for full details, WordPress sends an email notification on your WordPress admin email, and these email messages it contains a link to access the backend and an attempt to fix the error. Syntax error in WordPress. So this, if you see this here, parse error, some kind of syntax error here. This error usually occurs if you're trying to add code snippets in WordPress and you have accidentally missed something, or the code has that you copied and pasted has incorrect syntax. So this will result in a PHP parse error. The error message will usually indicate the unexpected thing that's found in the code, like it's on line 549, for example, the location of the script where the error happened, the line number, right? So not just the line number, but also which file. To fix this, you have to correct the syntax. Most oftentimes it's something like a missing bracket or some unexpected character in the code or wrong quotation marks, things like that. So go in there where you're supposed to go and try and fix that. In order to fix the syntax error, you need to then edit the code that caused the error, right? So you can either remove it or try and fix it. It feels scary because this error causes your entire site to become inaccessible. So if you pasted the code using your WordPress dashboard using appearance editor section, then you're probably locked out. So now you're going to have to go through the backend. So go through cPanel or use the FTP client to go and download that file, change it, and then upload it again, or just go through cPanel or FTP client to just delete that file completely if you can do without it. So the error message, like I said, usually tells you which file and which line you need to edit. So you can either remove the code you last edited or write the code in the correct syntax. So go back to your WordPress site, refresh the site after that, and your site will be working. So next is error establishing a database connection in WordPress. So this usually occurs when the user has entered or modified their database credentials like database host, database username, database password incorrectly. So sometimes your database server could be unresponsive or your database might have been corrupted through no fault of your own, but most likely is an incorrect database login credential. So that's more likely most of the time. So the possible solutions then are to check your WordPress database credentials, check your database host information. Most WordPress hosting companies use localhost as your database host, but some managed hosting companies use a separate server to host databases. Then your database host information will not be localhost. And what is it then? You have to contact your hosting company to find out. You can repair the WordPress database, add in your own WP config file, define this here. You can add that. If you're not comfortable doing that, then don't. Check if you can get in touch with your hosting company to see what you can do. Check if your database server is down. So this could happen due to heavy traffic on a server. So just check with your hosting company if this is what's happening. Sometimes you get the WordPress white screen of death, the plain white screen with no error message. Most of the time it's caused when a script exhausts the PHP memory limit. It could also happen due to a configuration on the server. So it's possible that a user will only see a white screen of death on certain sections of their site, maybe not everywhere, just certain pages. So what do you do when you see the white screen of death? Possible solutions: you can increase the memory limit because it might be due to exhausting the PHP memory limit. You can disable all plugins. Try that. You can replace the theme with a default theme and figure out, is it your theme that's causing the problem? You can enable debug mode to catch errors in WordPress. You can clear WordPress cache. You can clear your browser cache. Clear cache in your WordPress caching plugin. So you can have a WordPress plugin to do this. You can enable debug mode to catch errors in WordPress. So you can add the following code in your WordPress config file. Okay, and once you do this, the blank screen will now have errors, warnings, and notices. So at least you know what's happening. If you don't see any errors, check the debug log. Where is the debug log? It's in the WP content folder. Okay, there'll be a new debug log containing a log of all the errors, notices, and warnings. So go to your cPanel, go look in your WP content folder, and there will be a new log file. Another error that you might see is WordPress memory exhausted error, increased PHP memory. So this occurs when a WordPress script or plugin has exhausted used up all the default allocated memory size. So what do you do? Okay, what do you do when you're locked out of WordPress admin then? Sometimes you may find yourself locked out of the WordPress admin area. This could happen if you forgot your password and you don't have access to the password recovery email for whatever reason. It could happen if a plugin or code that incorrectly tries to make changes in the admin section can also lock you out. You might lose access to the admin area also due to a hacked WordPress site. Someone might have hacked and then hacked into your site and locked you out. So the solution is easy to reset your password from the login screen. Click on the lost your password link. But sometimes if you didn't set it up properly and don't have access to the email address, or your WordPress site fails to send you an email. And this has happened. I've had students invite me to be a contributor or administrator on their site, and I don't get an email from WordPress. Then I'm not able to go in there. So if you are trying to reset your password and you ask for the reset to an invitation to be sent to your email, you might not get the email. So then what do? You'll need to reset your WordPress password directly in the database. And the best way to do this, you can do it using phpMyAdmin. Or if you can still get into the cPanel, you can go into the Softalicious app, go in there and change the password and admin information there. If you can't go into your cPanel, then you have to go into phpMyAdmin. So how do you change your WordPress password from phpMyAdmin? From the cPanel, click on phpMyAdmin. Okay, so from the main cPanel page, go to phpMyAdmin. Launch the admin, so double click on it. Go to the table prefix users and click Browse. Delete the value in the user password field and replace it with your new password. So under the function column, select MD5 from the drop-down menu, click Go. So your password will be encrypted and then it will be stored in the database. So if you absolutely must have to, you can do it this way. And of course, I don't expect you to memorize it, but just know that that's where you need to go when the time comes, if it should ever happen to you. Remember that this is one avenue that you have. You can Google the solution again, and you can keep this PowerPoint and you can go through the steps here. And so WordPress login, refreshing, and redirecting issues. So is another error that you might come across. So symptoms of this issue are when a user tries to log in to the WordPress dashboard and they're redirected back to the login page. So most often this happens because of incorrect values for site URL and home URL fields in the WordPress options table. So this can be caused by poorly configured permalink settings or redirect setup in the htaccess file. Next is the image upload issue, and in WordPress, sometimes a user would suddenly notice that all the images on their site are gone and are showing broken image links here, placeholders. When the user tries to upload an image to a post or using the media uploader, it results in an error. So all these files in the media library will appear as broken. This is due to incorrect file and directory during the WordPress installation. So what went wrong? A lot of things could have went wrong. A misconfiguration of your shared hosting server can sometimes change those permissions without you doing anything. So it might not be anything you did. It could be your hosting service provider. They could have read an upgrade which unexpectedly changed the file permissions. So if everything else is working fine on your website, then you can simply apply the correct file permissions to fix the image upload issue. So how to fix? Click on the uploads directory and then select file permissions. Okay. You'll need to set file permissions for the uploads directory and all the subdirectories inside of it to 744. We have looked at this together as a class before. I showed you where to go in your cPanel. You can click on a file and then you can go up to the toolbar at the top of your cPanel there. In your file manager, and you can look at your file permissions. Okay, and then you can change the file permissions. How to fix briefly unavailable for scheduled maintenance error in WordPress. So what happens when WordPress puts your site in maintenance mode during an update? If for some reason the update's interrupted, then WordPress doesn't get a chance to put your site out of the maintenance mode, this error would lock down your entire site and make it unavailable to not just the admins, but for people who are trying to visit your site as well. Okay, so another one is WordPress not sending email issue. The most common symptom for this problem is not receiving any contact form or WordPress notification emails from your site. This is usually caused because most shared hosting providers disable or limit the module used for sending emails to prevent their servers from abuse. The next error that is also quite common is the 403 forbidden error in WordPress. 403 forbidden error code is shown when your server permissions don't allow access to a specific page. This is why the error is usually accompanied by the text, "You don't have permission to access on this server." So a 403 error was encountered while trying to use an error document to handle the request. Okay, so you might see something like that. So why does this happen? There are different scenarios when you see this error, when you might see this error. Incorrect file permissions, poorly coded security plugins, a server configuration are the most common reasons. And the most common out of these common reasons is the poorly configured security plugins. So many WordPress security plugins can block an IP address or a whole range of IP addresses if they believe them to be malicious. Okay, so next error, too many redirects issue in WordPress. So this right here, the page isn't redirecting properly. You might see something like that. So this usually occurs due to a misconfigured redirection issue. The WordPress has a SEO-friendly URL structure which uses the redirect function. So several other popular WordPress plugins also use the redirect functionality as well. So due to a misconfiguration in any of these redirection tools, your site may end up redirecting users to a URL that's actually redirecting them back to the referring URL. So in any case, the user's browser is kind of trapped in this loop. So that's what's happening here. Next is WordPress keeps logging out problem. Okay, have you ever encountered this? WordPress sets a cookie in your browser to authenticate a login session. So the cookie set for the WordPress URL is stored in your settings section. So if you're accessing a URL that does not match the one in your WordPress settings, then WordPress will not be able to authenticate your session. Okay, next, this site ahead contains harmful programs error in WordPress. Sounds kind of scary. Google marks a website with this warning if they find a suspicious code that could be malware or Trojan. So sometimes the reason for this is that your website is hacked and is now used to distribute malicious code. Another reason for this error is that it's showing ads from low-quality advertising networks. So if you have low-quality ads on your site, that might be a problem. These networks sometimes display ads linking to websites distributing malicious code. So it's a good thing that you're seeing this error. It's kind of giving you a heads up. Another one is fatal error, maximum execution time exceeded in WordPress. So WordPress is coded mainly in PHP programming language. To protect the web servers from abuse, there's time limit set for how long a PHP script can run. So some WordPress hosting services have set this value to a higher level, while others set it to a lower level. When a script reaches the maximum execution time limit, it results in a maximum execution time exceeded message here. Okay. Sometimes your add media button might not work in WordPress. That's another problem you might come across. So add media button in WordPress post edit screens uses JavaScript to launch the media library uploader. Sometimes the plugin or theme's code conflicts with the WordPress core, and this can prevent the JavaScript from working. WordPress combines all the scripts inside the WordPress admin area to improve performance. So a plugin or a theme script can disrupt this, which will make other code in the script stop working. Right, so 502 bad gateway error in WordPress. So 502 bad gateway error is another puzzling error that may appear on your WordPress site. It's usually caused when a user's request to the server takes too long to process without giving any other errors. So this delay can be just a glitch caused by high traffic. It could also be caused by a poorly coded WordPress theme or plugin. A server misconfiguration can also produce this. Another error you might see is another update in process error. This error usually appears during the WordPress core update process. If a user initiates another update process while updates are already going on, then you'll see this error message. WordPress automatically sets an update lock option on the database. So this database option prevents you from running simultaneous updates on your website. So it usually disappears after a while, so give it some time. Password reset key error in WordPress. This error forces the login page to keep refreshing and it won't allow you to save the password reset key. So while the front end of your site works just fine, you won't be able to log in and work on your website. So this is caused by a lack of disk space on your WordPress hosting account. So you guys have probably come across this already. Since there's no more disk space, WordPress fails to save new data in the database, so you can't do anything in it. So the recommended thing is to delete a few unnecessary files from your server, and this is what we tried to do, and it still wasn't enough. So I had to contact technical help to deal with the disk space. Okay. Next is your connection is not private error. Your connection is not private error appears on websites using the SSL HTTPS protocol when your website is unable to validate the SSL certificate issued by the website. So most popular browsers will display the error message instead of your website. This can result in a sudden drop in website traffic and also cause damage to your brand image. If somebody was trying to visit a site, they see this, they probably won't come back to it. All right, so this is the source for all this list of common errors that I kind of discussed with you. There are many out there. The thing to know is that there is a lot of support. There's a lot of forums. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of troubleshooting and problem solving going out there in the WordPress community. So you're not alone. You can always find something to help you with whatever error you're experiencing. So the trick is to go look for help, and the more you try and fix things, the more you learn. And always make sure that you have a backup in case you are trying to fix something or the error is irreparable. You can't figure it out. At least you have a backup, okay, that you won't lose all your information.